Hi. So today we're going to be doing our second webinar looking at Tanzanian sector of real estate. Um, so basically this is an overview that we're going to be giving of our market research report that is basically coming out this last quarter of the year. We thought that we would be able to give like a teaser and a taste for what is in the market research report. So we've come up with basically an overview that looks at the approach has been that we combine the data analysis with really on the ground insights, meaning like what it is that we have discovered during the various endeavors that we took to really research the market and get all the insights. And we really hope that in the market research report, we're able to really give you actionable insights and really get to understand the evolving real estate market in Tanzania. So welcome. My name is Amne Suedi. I'm the managing director of Shikana Investment and Advisory. We're in Dar es Salaam, as well as in Geneva, in Switzerland. Actually, we've moved now to Lucerne, the Swiss-German part of Switzerland. And we're really focused on investment in the Eastern and Southern African regions, really looking at market intelligence, market research, due diligences as well, risk assessments, but also the foundation of our organization is the legal. So we give legal services and really ensure that all the investments are well protected and taken care of. So that's us in a nutshell. Today, let's dive into the Tanzania's real estate. So Tanzania real estate sector is really at its pivotal moment. But basically, I'm not going to go over the same data that we went over in the webinar that we had 2 weeks ago. We know the GDP, single digits, but at around 5%, and projected to be in 2024, 6%. That basically the urbanization phenomenon, the population of Tanzania, according to the census that I think came out in 2023, is at 65 million people. So we know all of that, but we wanted to kind of now really dive into what the research really says in terms of all those phenomena that we're talking about, those economic indicators that you will see in some of these slides, but how that basically translates into investment opportunities. So the population growth, I think, when we really look at the urbanization trends, which is one of the major indicators and factors that determine or make up the real estate sector in Tanzania, and kind of all the investment decisions that go around the buildings that are made, the projects that are undertaken, has a lot to do with this, population growth. So basically in 2002, we were at 8 million, and right now we're at 24 million. This is with regards to the urban population. And the annual urbanization rate is basically at 5.2%. And that's actually more, I think twice more than what the global average is. So in Tanzania, a lot of people who come to Tanzania know about Dar es Salaam, which is the commercial capital in Tanzania, and of course Zanzibar, because who doesn't know Zanzibar? Zanzibar is just incredible island. But so there's a lot of real estate development and other even investments taking place in these two very well-known places. But Tanzania has other cities and major urban centers, actually, like in more towards the northern part of the country, like Mwanza and Arusha, and these are really key cities that are just experiencing so much growth, more and more increase of the population growth, and obviously then leading to a clear demand for housing and affordable housing, which we'll see later in the slides. We'll talk about that. But this surge basically really means that we're going to see a lot of hubs that are going to come up, a lot of other sectors that are just going to be springing up and also booming because of the urbanization phenomena, like the transport hubs and other kind of lines of business. Let's look at basically the real estate segments in Tanzania. So you've got your residential property segment, and it's obviously really, really evolving. I grew up in Switzerland. I came to Tanzania in 2011 or 2012, so it's been a while now. And I have to say that the way the city looks now, or certain places look now, versus how they looked like, over 10 years ago, is totally different. So we're really seeing that there's diverse needs that are growing, from high-end apartments, but also more of these projects that really suit a booming middle class. You have Tanzanian middle class, but you also have a lot of expatriates as well coming to Tanzania, either to work or to study. And they also, also have certain ideas and things in mind in terms of like what kind of investments that they would like to do, what kind of housing, it should be like, and what they're willing to invest in. There's also commercial real estate that is really expanding as well. More and more business, this government, the current government, the president has been a lot more intentional in opening up the country for more investment. We're going to go through this in the next slides, but you see that there is work that is being undertaken in terms of changing certain regulations and removing certain of the bottlenecks. And all of this, when you're really investing in the ease of doing business, you're actually just, increasing the opportunities, and that basically means that you basically are creating this need also for, again, housing, but commercial housing, and projects that would accommodate the working class and investors and business people, etc. So those are the real estate segments that they are in a nutshell. Of course, in the market research report, we go really a lot more in depth and look at all of these sectors more in depth. But now let's just dive into it and let's just really look at what is going on in Tanzania and why the real estate sector is one that is now more accessible than it was a few years ago. So when I came to Tanzania, like I said, over a decade ago now, as a foreigner, you could not buy land except for if it's for investment purposes, which means that you have to go through a certain number of requirements with the Tanzania Investment Center, register your project, and kind of make a business case in order for you to purchase property. There were very, very few people, foreigners, that were able to buy property, whether it was over here or in Zanzibar, with ease, meaning that on the same with the same ease, more or less, than the nationals. And that today, I think, has really, really changed, especially in Zanzibar. In mainland Tanzania, not quite, because even though there is that intention of changing it to mirror what is happening in Zanzibar, whereby Zanzibar basically changed its laws, and now foreigners are able to purchase assets, real estate, or even land, and construct themselves, provided that this is at a value of $100,000 then you're able to actually purchase this, and you get a lot more incentives as well attached to that, like favorable residency terms, etc. So that's been a game changer. When you go to Zanzibar, like an absolute game changer, because you just see so many more foreigners, especially in this day and age where I think a lot of things, the life in Europe or in the US, I meet a lot of people here in Africa, and even when I do travel and I'm in Switzerland and abroad, that are very tired of that life, I guess, and they would love to just come to Tanzania or go to Zanzibar and have a chance and an opportunity to make a life for themselves and invest, some of the private capital that they have. So in Zanzibar, you're meeting a lot of people that are actually able to do that, a lot of people from all over around the world. And you have these amazing projects, I think, like the Fumba Town projects, which are really creating this hub and ecosystem of foreigners from around the world that are basically, coming and purchasing property, doing amazing things, like even building, massive residential projects, etc. And that is thanks to the regulatory changes. So interestingly enough, actually, Tanzania and Zanzibar, because, when it comes to certain issues, right? Here, this is a question that is related to home affairs and security, so it's a union matter. But what was very interesting was that mainland Tanzania was able to be on board with this change after so many years. Those of you who are in Tanzania, are Tanzanians, do business in Tanzania, I know that you know what I'm talking about, but it's been long coming that there is this discussion about allowing foreigners to come and have more rights and, in terms of land and all that. I've written extensively on this on my newsletter, so you're welcome to check that out. I'm not going to go too much into detail with that, but Tanzania was supposed to actually mirror the same regulation as in Zanzibar, but unfortunately, the regulation is not yet operational in mainland Tanzania, but we're really hoping that that would change. But in Zanzibar, it definitely is. So things like that you see also that the laws in terms of residency and access actually to opportunities is much lower. That really encourages more private capital to go into that area. But also, I think that over the years, we've seen like a simplification of the processes. For example, in mainland Tanzania, with the Tanzania Investment Center, they have really simplified a lot of the processes with the one-stop centers that really allow investors to, do things. It's not Europe, so it's not going to be done like, it's not even Europe, actually. It's not the US. In US, it's like very, very efficient. And like you're able to like register your company in, absolutely no time. But we're getting there in Tanzania, but it's more just the ease, before you had to like, keep going, walking back and forth with paperwork and everything. But now you can actually do a lot of things online, and things are more coordinated with other agencies and everything, which really makes, I think, the process really, really pleasant. But there are other things in terms of the policy changes, which is related to the kind of making the real estate now market more serious and really regulating the, I think, people that are actors that are playing in this field. So you have the Real Estate Licensing Authority, for example, which is really, I think, a very good initiative to just really make sure that there's a level playing field that is built in terms of the various actors, the brokers, the agents, the developers that exist in the ecosystem. And of course, then there's also been some incentives in terms of like the changes in the taxation structure for property transactions. So all in all, that kind of policy environment has really, I think, played a role in terms of the real estate boom that we're seeing in Tanzania. So there's the focus, of course, on the secondary cities that are really coming up. There's been a lot of focus, I think, on Dar es Salaam, but there's also booming cities like Dodoma. A few years ago, there was a policy change whereby the the intention of the government was to really develop Dodoma as this hub for not only universities and education, but also for government affairs. And of course, the parliament was already established there and operating there from. But what that implies is that obviously there's like a boom of people that are basically moving to that region, which means that the rapid development really requires a massive investment in terms of, again, housing. But there are other places like Tanga, like Bea, for example, in Mwanza, I think, as well. Other places that are less saturated, I would say, than in Dar es Salaam, but really like having so much potential in the long run and in the future. So some of the things that we're seeing is the kind of the underserved market segments. So these are really like in terms of the opportunity. So they're underserved market segments. So for example, there's like the senior living facilities that we're seeing that there's actually a need. There are more and more people who choose Tanzania, Zanzibar to be like a place that they would like to retire and live in. So these kind of facilities are really lacking, and there's a big opportunity and also a growing demand also, because also of the changing family structures as well that we're seeing, the evolution also even of the middle class in Tanzania, and how they relate to the family, and all that. Another big opportunity is related to the student housing, and that's just another area that's like largely untapped. Opportunity really there's so many. Education is one of the key pillars, I think, and the drivers of all the policies that are trying to be put into place in terms of reaching this Vision 2050, reaching all these like targets and all these goals. And so you're going to have to invest in people and invest in their education. And so that would mean that, their living and, housing and all that comes into play. And right now there is a deficit, both in Dar es Salaam and also in all these secondary cities that we also had a look at. But then we're seeing also more and more, and this more in Zanzibar, is the mixed use developments projects. But there's a real opportunity for having mixed use developments where you have commercial, residential, entertainment options. I think that is something also that should be really, that we're going to see in the coming years, that is going to be a real massive opportunity already in the secondary cities, so outside of Dar es Salaam. Yeah, so I think that in terms of all of those opportunities, of course, it's important that basically that when you proceed to invest, that risk mitigation is really at the forefront of a lot of the things that you do. So I'm not going to be here to kind of talk about the risk of Africa, because there's so many people who talk about this risk of Africa. And what I'm going to say about that is that risk exists everywhere. And what I'm about to share in terms of what I think is like kind of the risk mitigation strategies that can be taken for foreign investors when they're looking to invest in the market is something that is applicable generally anywhere. It's really also part of common sense. So first of all, I think it's very important that local partnerships are made on the ground with Tanzanians. So beyond just like the Tanzanians, because they're able to own land in a much more straightforward way than foreigners, then partnerships are entered into where the Tanzanian is just looked at as somebody who is owning this resource, and they're not so much involved in the whole breadth of the project. I think those times are ending, and we really need to have more sustainable local partnerships, and that's also what's going to really ensure that your chances of success are really, really high, because you're essentially going to be working with somebody who has knowledge of the market, has knowledge of the people, really is able to unpack the opportunities in a language that you're really able to see and grasp and understand. One of the challenges in this sector is really like the navigating of the land acquisition processes. I have to say that it's quite complicated in Tanzania, but to be honest, it's quite complicated anywhere that you go in the world, because land is the most, it's a very important resource for any country. But in Tanzania, basically you have a tiered system where you have village land, and you also have the general land, but then you also have various other state enterprises or state agencies or authorities in Tanzania that are also owning land as well. So when you're really looking at like land acquisition in terms of what it is that you want to do, so if it's with the government, maybe you're looking at a PPP structure, maybe you're looking at going through the getting a derivative right through the Tanzania Investment Center, or maybe it's a long-term lease, whatever it is, but basically navigating all of that in terms of making sure that the land is surveyed, making sure that there's the proper delimitations of the assets, the proper registrations. That it's a very, very it's a very, very long process that I think is the part that makes a lot of investors frustrated, but I think it's because they don't necessarily approach it in the right way. Either they don't give it the importance that they should, or they're just not properly prepared in terms of like the advice and the support that they're getting. Of course, currency is also an issue, and especially like risk management around around currency in Tanzania, particularly when you look in the last year, or even longer, I would say beyond the last year, but I think the last year it's become a lot more pronounced, is this US dollar scarcity in the market, and how payments are still largely effected in US dollars, even though the government is trying to push and drive the policy. The policy is already there, but more like make it operational that, you can only be spending T shillings in Tanzania or in Tanzania. But what we're seeing actually is that dollars still tend to be the currency that people trust a lot more in Tanzania, whether it's locals actually or government, to be honest. So those kind of that comes with a lot of risks in terms of like just devaluations, etc. So it's very important that when you're looking into a project, when you're thinking about how to structure this project, when you're really thinking about the returns in the future, you really need to have factored in the currency risk aspect, and put in place management systems that are really able to hedge risks and de-risk actually the investment. So I feel like I've been talking for a really long time. So I think like I want to drink my tea and look through kind of some of the comments there. If anyone has any comments, any questions or anything, I think I can still be able to look at the chat and prepare for those, whilst my colleague Isai, who's the market research analyst, can take over the rest of the presentation. And karibu sana Isai.
Thank you, Amne. Thank you so much. Isai Mathias. I'm the research analyst at Shikana Group, and Amne has covered the foreign investment trends tracking. So I think Amne has covered a lot of parts, and I'll just focus on technology and real estate. So basically, I'll cover what are the emerging opportunities when it comes to integrating sustainable technologies, but also innovative digital technologies in the real estate sector. As Amne has mentioned, the real estate sector alone contributes about 3.1% of Tanzania's gross domestic product. So this is couple billions of dollars, but the residential sector alone, like the residential real estate sector alone, is very huge. It's valued at over 59 billion US dollars. And the industrial and the commercial real estate segments are also valued at more than $6 billion. So these are great opportunities for entrepreneurs to build valuable businesses that they can scale and have impact at large. So as you can see in Zanzibar, there's a timber building, a 28-story timber building that is in development, and it will be one of the first buildings of its kind by integrating sustainable technologies into the building process. So that's one part. Sustainability is a key thing in real estate. For example, for those who know CRDB's office here in Dar, so they've integrated all the processes which can enable smart energy savings and also efficiency in energy use. So these properties with these qualities are in high demand, and investors who can cater to this market segment, they can reap a lot of benefits. But also another area that is open for disruption is in payments. For anyone who has ever rented in Tanzania or in Dar es Salaam, we all know that it's a painstaking process. You have to pay we call them dalalis. And then when you pay them as if you're paying the landlord, like a 1 month rent. So if we could have streamlined processes where the homeowner and the renter are connected in an efficient platform so that the buy and sell experience can be smooth. So you just get pictures of your home and you pay without having any middleman in between.
These are really good. These are really good ideas.
Yeah, so
giving them,
giving them for free. So
no, but that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, so if we do something like that, it would be really great. But I understand it's so difficult to implement such technology, but with the right connections with the regulators and other stakeholders, I think it would be possible to pull it off. But also another way is to introduce micropayments for rent. So nowadays, if you want to rent an apartment, you have to pay, let's say, 6 months, 5 months. So low-income individuals who only have, someone can't have, let's say, a 5-month income at once. Most people maybe earn per day or they earn per week. So if you can introduce micropayments for rent. So for example, just someone pays a daily rate through M-Pesa, which is deducted autonomously, like automatically every day you pay rent, let's say 1,000 shillings of rent, instead of paying, let's say, $600,000 for 6-month rent. So if we try to focus on serving underserved segments or low-income individuals, there's so much opportunity for startups or companies in the residential real estate sector. So that's one other key area that I wanted to highlight. And also, when you look at infrastructure development trends, we see the government is investing heavily in supporting real estate. So it's building roads, bridges. So we know that when you have good bridges and good roads, it's easy to set up a commercial building or a residential building, and people can fit into that place and make settlement. So the government's efforts are supportive of real estate development, but also the market is huge, like $590 billion. I think that's a huge market. And it's something that hasn't been tapped, and it's largely informal. So most of the retail transactions in the real estate sector are taking place informally. People pay by cash. There's no digitization of the process. So there's enormous opportunity for people to build these digital platforms or digital products which will serve the real estate sector. But also the emerging urban population, as Amne had mentioned. So UN Habitat estimates that by 2030, we'll have 35 million people living in urban areas in Tanzania. So that's a huge population which will require permanent settlement or temporary settlement, and they'll require also diverse social services, which will be served by different types of real estate outfits. So you can set up a mall, you can set up an apartment that has mixed uses like Amne has mentioned. So that's it for the emerging opportunities, and I'll bring it over to Amne.
So okay, in terms of the logistics, right? So maybe you can turn it so that the camera is on me.
Okay.
Yeah. The SEZ, I think you spoke about something which is like, the SEZ. So right now, the president of Tanzania and a lot of African presidents, governments are currently in China, but China actually has invested in these kind of SEZ, special economic zones, like in Bungo, where it's like this hub that they're trying to build, right? And that's like a real opportunity. I think even the government that is really trying to push through. So currently, like there's some changes that are ongoing that were already announced in the media. Like there is a merger between the Tanzania Investment Center and the Special Economic Zone and Export Processing Zone authorities. And that's really major because I think that the EPZA and SEZ is like the sleeping giant, because it's incredible when you read the laws and the regulations, the amount of incentives that they've put in place in terms of the incentives that don't even exist in TIC anymore, by the way, like tax exemptions over like a period of like 10 years, like just so many favorable terms, etc. So it's going to be very, very interesting, because I think that the fact that these two institutions, Tanzania Investment Center and SEZ, are actually being put together, I think it's going to be there's going to be a lot more opportunity, because also the SEZ and the EPZA, Exports Processing Zone Authorities, and the Tanzania Investment Center, they all have a lot of land actually that they don't necessarily know really what to do with, and they need like much larger projects around manufacturing, etc. And that's where like the SEZ, the special economic zones, that the EPZA would actually come in, which I think would be really good, because we might see that some of the exemptions that kind of left progressively the last few years from TIC, but that EPZA still very much has, we might actually see something good for foreign investors, like in terms of more of these incentives that they can, take advantage of. Okay. So you do have there is a slide on the SEZ and EPZA. Yeah. So of course, I was actually talking to someone I know who's like investing in this across Africa, and they were saying that one of the things that they were saying is like the lack of infrastructure development. So what's encouraging is that you see that there is a lot of spending in Tanzania from the Tanzanian government in infrastructure, like the roads, the kind of the putting in place all the networks, the electricity, the water supply and all that. There's a big investment in that. So I think that the SEZ and the EPZs are actually going to be very, very competitive at a certain point, because investors don't have to spend all that money in project development, like just to get the environment to a certain standard before they can actually start investing in their business. So I don't know if we've really covered everything, because I feel like I feel like time is going really, really fast, and there's so much to talk about in this, and I'm not really I think we have covered everything, and maybe we do have some time for questions and also to hear from other people in the audience. I had some messages already that were sent to me. So somebody actually had asked about the green investments in real estate. What are we seeing? And also asked me about smart cities. Is this something that we're seeing an appetite for in Tanzania? And so yes, we are seeing that. We're not only in Tanzania, but in a lot of places in Africa. Rwanda, my favorite region is East Africa. So when you look at Rwanda, that's kind of really, I would say, a champion in the region when it comes to clean climate change and kind of being very conscious around sustainability and all that. There are projects now we're seeing for building smart cities, including one here actually that is planned to be done in Tanzania. And there's still quite a way to go, because these are really large, cities large projects, that you're talking about, like essentially building these cities that can accommodate a certain number of people. And, add at that, this is something, when you're talking about green cities, at least this project, for example, is really one that is looking at everything would be renewable energy used, or like the construction material would be bamboo, and all these really good.
Yeah.
Is there good or bad? I feel like, I don't know, when it comes to like green stuff, we always say good or bad. I don't know if green is really good, and when it's not green, it's not bad, but but my point is, yes, there is more and more of those kind of investments coming in. Can you maybe check if there's like the questions in the chat?
Sure.
Yeah. And if anyone can raise their hands if they have any questions. And people can raise their, they can go to reaction down as a tab, and then you just need to raise your hand, and then we'll be able to kind of bring you forward and answer your questions. But let's look at the chat so that we can see the questions.
So there's someone who's asking.
So there's several questions.
Which one do we begin with? 99 years?
Let's just go to the beginning.
The first one?
The first question, and then we can move down. Or we can go to the latest, and then maybe we can start down and go up, actually, because it might be easier. So go down, all the way down, and then go up. Down.
Yeah, it's the first question.
Okay, so title is leasehold 99 years, is freehold at
That's
all
Machiavelli.
possible.
Okay.
What question am I looking at? I don't understand.
Title is this one.
Title is so with regards to the question that was with regards to the leaseholds of 99. Okay, so there is no freehold possible in Tanzania. There's just what is known, if you're a Tanzanian national, you would have a certificate of occupancy for a maximum period of 99 years, depending on what the intention is, the usage of the land that you would be getting. And this would basically need to be renewed after those 99 years or 66 years or 33 years. With about inheritance, unfortunately, we don't specialize in inheritance matters, so it's going to be difficult to answer that. But let's move to the next question. Is there some kind of residency program? And if yes, how complicated is it to apply? Daniel, hi, Daniel. Daniel, so are you thinking of moving to to Tanzania? So the residency program, actually, maybe we can bring Daniel. Can we bring Daniel up?
To make him speak?
Yes, please.
Okay.
He's up there. Daniel.
Hi.
Yes. Hey, Daniel, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for doing this. It was very interesting to listen.
You're welcome.
My question is, I'm researching countries that have a low tax policy or a zero tax policy on foreign income, and there's a lot of countries that are doing this. And I know from your posts and from what you're telling me that Tanzania and Africa and Rwanda and a lot of countries are really rising up and are really coming up. So this is very interesting to have an eye on that. So I would like to know, is there some kind of residency program, even if we're not investing in real estate, or is that a wrong question for the topic?
Yes, so that's like a really great question. In terms of East Africa, there is no country that you would just be able to kind of decide to go to, let's say, Tanzania, come to stay in Tanzania without anything specific that is bringing you to Tanzania. So I think a lot of the what we're seeing in terms of the trends are these nomad visas, right? Where you're literally able to just, go to a certain country and, have your computer, continue with your life and, live a pretty great life. So that hasn't come to a lot of the countries in East Africa yet, but I think it is something that is going to be coming in the next in the next few years, definitely. But what we're seeing actually is a relaxation in terms of the terms before. So, for example, if you look at Zanzibar, if you're going to buy a property by the beach or anywhere amazing on the island for 100,000 US dollars, then that would actually allow you to live in the country and have residency and even be able to, do something out of your investment, right? Whether it's like Airbnb, that's something that's really booming and really working in places like in Zanzibar, just because of the massive influx of tourists. I think we've seen the numbers are like the tourists is like over 1 million or 2 million. I don't want to say per year, but it's definitely over 1 million per year. So, and it's only growing. So I think that what I can say about that is that is the situation now in terms of like nomad visas, not yet. But I think that it's definitely something to try and push the government to consider, because I think it's really, really good. It's like what I had just said earlier, which is like, I meet so many people from Europe and from the US who just are kind of tired of living that life and tired of the winters. When I talk about winter over here, like my my Tanzanian brothers and sisters, they're like, oh yeah, it's like Arusha. And I'm like, Arusha is like 20 degrees in winter. I'm talking about like minus.
Talking
really, really cold.
winters in Switzerland, right?
Yeah. So those kind of things are making people really rethink in terms of like, it'd be really nice to go and live somewhere else and everything. So we're really hoping to see that there will be that trend soon, where it would be even easier for people to move and live and live here and reside in Tanzania and Zanzibar. I hope that answered your question, Daniel.
Yes, absolutely. Just one little more. So if I buy real estate in Tanzania, then I have a residency. And how is this on tax, on income tax? How is this on foreign income?
Yes. So unfortunately, when you're looking, thank you.
Okay.
So there is no instrument between Switzerland and Tanzania. So there's no double taxation treaty. But I know that it's something that is something that the chamber, the Switzerland Tanzania Chamber of Commerce, which exists and which actually I'm the president I'm the chairwoman of the board. But this is something actually that we really wanting to put in place because of the massive opportunity that exists between Switzerland and Tanzania. There is a lot of Swiss businesses in Tanzania, even though it's very undercover because it's the Swiss way. But there are a lot of Swiss people that are coming to Tanzania, to Zanzibar, to do business. And so having something like that, a DTT agreement in place is something that would, I think, be very, very beneficial for the existing companies that are doing business over here from Switzerland, but also even others in Switzerland who are watching Tanzania. I think if they knew that, oh, there's a DTT in place, that investment decision or that decision to move to would be much easier made because of that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Karibu sana, Daniel. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay, so let's go to
Who's speaking?
other questions as well. There's someone who's raised their hands.
Seem to unmute.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Hi, my name is Patrice, Patrice Lefeu. I'm from Paris and I'm supporting clients, to invest in Tanzania. So,
Yes.
Hi,
Patrice.
Hi, how are you, Amne? Good to see you.
Good, and you? Yeah, good to see you too.
So my question is more about the solvency, of the Tanzanian market. Do you have any clue about, in terms of volume and in terms of financial capacity, how much, what is, let's say, the amount or how much people can pay, to buy an house or a flat, depending on, of course, the size of the family. But if we take, for example, an house for 6 people, how much people can afford to pay, for a very basic house? Is it $50,000? Is it $80,000? Just as an average, to understand what is the market solvency.
Okay, that's a really good question. So I think that we have a slide. Can you go to the slide?
Sorry,
That is,
I missed the beginning of the conference. Maybe this is a really this is something.
Okay, sure. No worries, Patrice. You're welcome. So basically, we had touched on this, which had to do with like the market size, etc. And actually, what you're seeing is that there's been a boom in terms of the residential real estate, and especially in cities like Dar es Salaam, because there is a much higher purchasing power and spending power, so the affordability is more. But what we're seeing actually now is that there's a crisis because things have just become too expensive in Dar es Salaam, in these kind of the commercial city that basically is seeing that there's been a boom in this real estate. So there is still other people, right? The middle class, the working class that have money to spend, but where can they spend it? And I think that's a really key point, because the last few years we've seen that consideration and more of a drive, even from the government side, to really create these affordable housings and affordable housing from, for example, the state company, which is the National Housing Corporation, that is really there to address this the middle class and the lower class that cannot afford the $400,000 for a 130 square meter apartment in Masaki, which is one of the best places in in Tanzania, that basically has maybe 4 bedrooms, for example. You see, so the people who can actually afford that are very, very few people, but the larger amount of people, they cannot afford that. So what we're seeing is that the National Housing Corporation has been very intentional in building more housing units that are outside of these major cities, going more into secondary cities, but even into emerging cities within Dar es Salaam, for example, like places that are much further out, like Bunju or Mbezi or Mbweni, and all these places that are how many kilometers from here, from like central, maybe you're talking about 20 kilometers or so, and all of a sudden you're seeing affordability where people are able to get a standard house for maybe $80,000. It wouldn't be in dollars, by the way, it would be in T-shillings. So I think the right indication would be around 150 million, 200 million shillings, which is roughly around 80,000, 60 to 80,000 $80,000. So I think that there's a massive opportunity for student housing. There's a massive opportunity for just normal housing, that is much more affordable than what we're seeing, in the capital cities, where it's, to the threshold for coming in and buying is very, very high. And actually what we're seeing is that it's more actually the foreigners and the expatriates that would be able to afford this, because of also the lending policies that exist in their countries, for example, in terms of interest rates, in terms of payback and all that. Getting a mortgage or securing a loan, the terms can be a lot more favorable, for example, from Switzerland than they are in Tanzania. So typically you see that there is that kind of foreigners that are able to afford those kind in Masaki and Upanga and all these other places, because of the access to cheaper capital. But then what about everyone else? And that's the massive opportunity that exists and that needs to go into. So I would love to talk to you more about it, actually, and really look at some of the opportunities that there are, so that you can really get a feel for what I'm saying.
And thank you so much. It's very useful. More or less, I'm trying to size, sort of addressable market, for clients. And the question here is how we can, what would be the market, go-to-market strategy, and how we can position, the product. It's really this, But to do this, you need to understand what is exactly the affordability, of people. And depending on, the target you select, if it's middle class, if upper middle class, and then you can start to determine, the size of your market and how much, should be your cost, for your housing, and how much you can sell it, more or less. This is what I was trying to understand.
Yeah. So that's really like such an important approach. I think when you're looking at investing in anywhere really, but also in Tanzania. And I would love to talk more about that because it's very specific and requires a lot more specific market research to really look at where exactly you can have this project in Tanzania and and all those details about it. So I'd love to talk to you more about it, Patrice, whatever.
Let's make it offline. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don M.
Yes, Don M.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Don, how are you?
Good, thank you. So you spoke about Dodoma and Mbeya and the other town there. I just wanted to know if Makerere University or any other university has got campuses in those smaller cities or smaller centers or not. That's the first part.
Okay. Are you from Uganda?
No, I'm not. I'm not from Uganda. I'm from Southern Africa.
That's very specific though about my Makerere University. That's why I was wondering. I was like, are you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Makerere, Uganda. Sorry, no, sorry about that. I had forgotten. I had mixed up the universities there. But I just want to know if they are university because you spoke about campus student accommodation. So I just wanted to know which major universities are in those cities.
Yes. So student housing is a crisis even in Dar es Salaam, right? So that's actually the one area that even in Dar es Salaam, especially more on the outskirts of those kind of very developed places that I mentioned before in Dar es Salaam, you're going to find areas that you could like do something, have a housing for students, and it would be a total sellout. But when you look in terms of Tanzania has a lot of universities across the country, so there is an opportunity for housing in Dodoma, which has some universities and the largest university as well, and other places as well, like in Mwanza, Morogoro. Yes, so there's an opportunity there.
Yeah. Then thank you. My second question is about the Tanzanians in the diaspora. Do you have a number? And do you know which countries they are most concentrated?
That's a very good question, having been in the diaspora myself once upon a time. But no, I don't have an exact number of the diaspora that exists worldwide in Tanzania. And I think actually neither does the Tanzanian government, because they started actually a special window whereby Tanzanians from abroad could basically get their details into a system so that the government can know exactly where they are, etc. And of course, that was in line with the imminent or pending regulation that's supposed to come out, which is going to be affording Tanzanians in the diaspora special status, and to actually be able to purchase properties and land and make investments as though they were Tanzania? So that's a very good question. But I know that for me, I grew up in Switzerland. I don't feel like that Switzerland has particularly so many Tanzanians, but I also studied in the UK, and I think there was a lot more in the UK and also in the US because I've got family there. I think there's a big concentration of them over there, but I think those would be the two areas that I know. I know right now that there's a lot of Tanzanians also that are going to China, that are going to India. That has always been the case. So I think that there is also a concentration of a lot of diaspora also in Asia as well. Yeah.
Then the next question, probably my final one, is about the cultural sentiment. Or do Tanzanians come back home? Or I'm just wanting to see if there will be a trend in people wanting to come back or investing back home, because in some other African countries that's big. People don't die in foreign land. So I this is just anecdotal. I don't expect you to have any statistical information about that.
Well, I mean, that's a great question, I guess. I came back home, right? But the rest of my family didn't. So I think it's really hard. I think, and I know also a number of Tanzanians that do want to come home, but then others that don't really want to come home so early. But they would definitely come home after they've retired, but they're not going to come home before, like me. I came back when I was like in my late 20s, 30s, so
but do they invest while they're still out, while they're still in the diaspora? Do they invest back home, like building houses and wanting to be in a good neighborhood or in Dar es Salaam or something? Is that a sentiment?
Yes, absolutely. Like there is a lot of investment, a lot of money that is coming from the Tanzanian diaspora that's just even supporting family members, the businesses. Like there's so that there is a lot of that, and there's definitely an appetite. And right now in Parliament of Tanzania, they're actually now discussing about and hopefully passing the bill that will allow Tanzanians in the diaspora to own land, to be able to just come here with an ease of doing things, and that is also for that consideration, because they're to facilitate more private capital from Tanzanians that are living abroad.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I've sent you a message on LinkedIn. So
okay, great. Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much, John. Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, I have a question. I am actually a Finnish citizen from Finland. Now, I have family members who are not Tanzanians, but they're Kenyan citizens, my children. And I'm thinking that investing in Tanzania just for purely speculative purposes could work out. And if I personally wanted to live in Tanzania, that would probably have to be in Zanzibar, otherwise I would have to rent. And this concerns also the Kenyan citizens as well, right? But what about the company? Let's say we have a limited company that has a license to develop real estate. How to invest in Tanzanian real estate as a commercial entity that builds, for example, condominiums?
That's very, very specific. So how can you invest as a foreign company in Tanzania? Yeah, so I think that it's totally doable to invest as a foreign entity in Tanzania, provided that the biggest hurdle when it comes to real estate investment is the land, right? The land acquisition. So you as a foreign entity from Finland, I think you said it was, you would not be able with your Finnish, with your company that is incorporated in Finland to buy land in Tanzania and to own land in Tanzania. Because as a foreigner, there's guidelines, or more than guidelines, actually law, that basically provides
But
exactly.
as a company, owning the land no longer matters. The company can always just lease the land.
Yes.
And then sell the apartments.
Yes.
And now if I am a shareholder in that company, I can
Yes.
purchase enough shares to qualify for right to live in one of the apartments, right?
Yes, yes. Yes. So I think that maybe something that you should look into, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go into this, is these unit trusts for real estate it's actually a regulation that's been existing for a decade now, whereby it's basically a collective investment scheme that is really for real estate investment. So as a foreign company, you would be able to participate in real estate investment through that. But from what I know, I do not think that these unit schemes yes, I don't think that there has been any so far. Maybe right now there is some, because there is this boom in real estate, and I think that more and more people are wanting to treat real estate as like an actual investment beyond just living in it, or a functional investment. So I think that these unit trusts is something that to look into, and I'd be very happy for us to schedule a call so that we can talk more about it, because we don't have time to go into it now. So, okay, it's now 10 past 5. Thank you so much all for being here. I don't know if we managed to go through all the questions in the chat, but what we will do is we will take all the questions that are there and make sure to get back to you and give you the answers that you deserve. Of course, just to thank you, we're leaving you with our free market overview. That was our promise, that we would give you the free market overview that basically would talk about the real estate market overview in Tanzania. Yeah, so we're going to send that to you, to all the people that had basically registered. We'll send that to you, and we're going to be organizing another webinar that is going to really go more into the details of how to structure the investments, and really like what to do, what kind of corporate vehicles to have, the taxation considerations and all that. So we'll definitely reach out to you with regards to that opportunity as well, so that you can sign up and we can really have more of a deep dive in this topic that I see a lot of people are interested in. A lot of people are interested about real estate all over the world. So yeah, thank you so much. And we hope to see you next time. In 2 weeks' time, we have another webinar as well. So we have a lot of things coming up. So we'll definitely let you know, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing from you. And take care, stay safe, bye.